This is the newest M1 powered iPad Pro, and it's awesome. It's thin, light, screen's amazing, super powerful, long battery life. Objectively, the best tablet on the market. But why does it exist? Let's talk about that. The biggest news to come out of the Apple camp recently is its new M1 chip. Nobody really expected it to be as good as it was. Apple's put it in their MacBooks, their iMacs, their Mac Minis, and to surprise to a lot of people, their iPad. This marks the first time ever that you can get the same exact processor in an iPad that you can in a MacBook Pro or an iMac, or any desktop system that's running Mac OS. So what is the M1 iPad Pro? Well, it's an iPad, and it's marked as Pro for professional, and it has the M1 chip. It's good for all kinds of things, from content consumption. Let's check out some quality YouTube content. Oh yeah, look at that screen. When paired with the Apple Pencil, it makes using Photoshop on this an actual enjoyable experience. So here's my base image. I've gone in and brightened up some of the shadows. I've decreased some of the highlights. I've overall brought down some of the exposure from around the statue. I boost the saturation a little bit to give it more of a pop. And then overall gave it a more cool feeling. And it was actually nice to work with. The inclusion of the pen and the accuracy of this thing makes it easier to perform fine brush movement and gives you more finesse over the photos you're working with. And if you want to work on some documents, you can actually pair a Bluetooth keyboard with it and start typing. Productivity at its finest. And when you're done with that, feel free to fire up some games. What the hell, dude? Easy. So it's basically an iPad, but none of the stuff I mentioned is exclusive to the iPad Pro. The cheaper iPad Air can do all of this. So why the Pro name? And this is where I think the issue comes in. So let's list off what you get with the Pro model and what comes with the Pro name. So I have the 11-inch, but there's also the 12.9-inch, which only difference really is that the 12.9-inch has a better screen, but on both Pro models, you can get up to 2 terabytes of storage, which is much more than you can get on the iPad Air. You do get an extra ultra-wide 10 megapixel camera on the rear if you're one of those people who takes pictures with your iPad. It also comes with LiDAR, so it will make it easy if you're a developer to use the LiDAR to do some augmented reality stuff and take advantage of certain augmented reality apps. And the USB-C on the iPad Pros is actually Thunderbolt 4 compatible, so there's that. And the only real difference between the 11-inch and the 12.9-inch, like I mentioned before, is the screen. The 11-inch is pretty similar to what you're going to get on the iPad Air. The 11-inch Pro model does get a little bit brighter, but when you step up to the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, you do get their what they're calling Liquid Retina XDR display, which gets pretty freaking bright and allows you to display HDR content. So if you're into that and you want a ginormous tablet, then go for the 12.9-inch model, I guess. So yes, this is a great tablet in a vacuum. So what's the issue? I recently posed the question, why does this exist? And I've pretty much only given reasons why it exists. But there's two sides to the coin. The iPad Pro is objectively the best tablet on the market right now, but it's also not living up to its potential. And both of those statements can be true. And the latter statement is what I think a lot of people have issues with. So over the years, Apple has done so many things to make the iPad more of a computer experience. Everybody knows the famous iPad commercial with the little girl, "What's a computer?" Yeah. Since then, they've added file system support, mouse and keyboard support, and other features that make it feel more like a desktop experience. And then finally this year, like I mentioned before, they put the M1 chip in the iPad, the same chip that is running on the rest of their entire lineup that runs Mac OS. That same SoC is in here, meaning that physically, this thing should be able to run Mac OS, but it won't. Many people were holding out for WWDC this year and praying that Apple would finally bring desktop applications to the iPad Pro, but they didn't. This is where the Pro name gets confusing. Pro stands for professional. You want professionals to use this. And Linus actually made a really good point in one of his videos, stating that Apple has gone on record and said that iOS and iPad OS is designed for everybody, especially children. So you're basically giving us professional level hardware and handicapping it with an operating system made for children. It's like buying a Lamborghini and only being able to drive around through school zones. Yeah, the Lamborghini is a fantastic piece of machinery, but you can only go 20 miles per hour. And that's the same thing we're seeing here. The iPad Pro has so much potential. Okay, imagine a world where you can use your iPad and iPad OS and be perfectly content with it, but you also have the option to load in Mac OS and run Mac OS on your iPad, giving you the portability of an iPad, the power of the M1 chip, and the amazing battery life that comes with this package, all with the ability to run desktop level applications. So like Xcode or Final Cut or the Adobe Cloud Desktop Suite. So desktop level Premiere Pro and Photoshop and all of it. That would be amazing. But Apple has yet to give us that. But they have given us objectively the best tablet on the market right now. So on one side, you can't really fault Apple, because imagine a world where the M1 chip didn't go in the rest of their lineup and they had just put it in the iPad. We would literally be sitting here praising the iPad for, again, being the most powerful tablet on the market. But the fact that the M1 chip exists in the rest of their lineup running Mac OS basically opened themselves up for this criticism and the lack of pushing the iPad to its full potential. So with all that said, why did I buy this? Why didn't I just go with the iPad Air like I stated before? That's because I'm a fool and holding out hope that in some future release, Apple is going to grace us with what we've all been waiting for and allow us to run desktop applications on the iPad Pro. Plus, I got this for a good deal, so I couldn't really pass it up. But that's basically everything I wanted to cover. Like I said before, the iPad Pro is an amazing piece of hardware. It will certainly get the job done, assuming you don't want to use Xcode or Final Cut or any major desktop software, but you'll probably get near the same experience out of the cheaper iPad Air. So if you're not worried about in the future having an M1 chip in your iPad, then I would strongly suggest going with the iPad Air. Any of you out there that have the iPad Pro and swear by it, let me know in the comments why, or if you have some type of buyer's regret for going with the more expensive iPad Pro. I'm curious to know. That's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like below. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you're subscribed so you're notified the next time we post something awesome. See you on the next one.